Namaste and welcome to the Transformation Immersions mega series on holistic wellness and beyond. I'm your host Sonal Singhal and a holistic healer and a transformational coach. Today, I would call ourselves very fortunate as we are getting to meet a well known holistic wellness expert with experience in multiple fields such as fitness, medicine, nutrition, genetics, biochemistry, etc. etc. Welcome, Wendy, to the Transformation Immersion. Wendy is a published author, a founding member, and director of advanced wellness programs for health centers across the US. She's also a product innovator, chief of research and development for several of her own beverage and cannabis and supplement brands. It's quite impressive, Wendy. Uh, Wendy, what in your personal life inspired or drove you to become a wellness specialist?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm so thankful for this opportunity to just share a little bit. In answer to that question, I actually was very interested in the science of the human body from a very young age, since I was very small. But then when I was in my 20s, I got very sick and I was very healthy. So I was eating right and moving and practicing what I taught. But little by little started to get very ill. At some point, I wasn't able to walk. I was having seizures and the doctors could not figure out what was going on. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so it launched me into some deep research on what have I missed? How could I be sick? I was the one teaching people how to be well. So in that experience, I expanded my knowledge significantly, but it also really inspired me to make sure that when I was teaching or whatever I was doing and working with people, that I was incorporating everything. So it really became a passion about holistic health for sure, from every different culture, from all of history, every background, and also to make sure that people had the truth. Because what I found is a lot of what I had been taught wasn't accurate. And because in practice it wasn't working. So it's one thing to teach it, but then when it continually does not work, one must go back and go, okay, where along the line did this get, communicated incorrectly? So it was through that process and healing my own body and really learning the strength of the human body that I emerged into another level of what it is that I do now, which is precision wellness specialty services, where I actually look at the entire individual from a precise standpoint versus these blanket diets or the blanket exercise programs, or everybody should be doing this, or the newest thing is this. But it's such a unique and individual thing that I learned through that process.
So you mentioned that there were certain things that you were taught about, and you found that those didn't work for you and they were not right. So, would you like to tell us what those things you're talking about here?
Yes, there was a lot. So we would need a lot of time to go over all of them. I feel like every day I was confronted with something that was not scientifically backed, that it was more a marketing ploy. It was more about building a business industry, making money, creating return businesses, return customers, than it was about science. And so one of the biggest ones that really impacted me specifically was calories in versus calories out, and how we do this mathematical equation as if calories were just a simple variable. Calories are not a simple variable, especially when you take in the additional variables of the individual who is consuming or expending the calories. So that was huge for me because I was a fitness competitor. And as soon as I started to get better from being sick, I was applying the same diet, that I knew as a competitor to my life. And I was still gaining weight. And I was like, what is going on? This is not how it's supposed to be. I'm expending more calories than I'm consuming on a very specific ratio, and it wasn't working. So that, of course, opens up a whole other realm of possibilities of what really is going on biochemically. So I think that's a huge one. And also just the notion that everyone needs to have this percentage amount of proteins, of fats, of carbohydrates, the ratios of macronutrients, when we don't talk enough about the micronutrients and how they actually support the macronutrients. And so you can get those numbers exact, but it still doesn't necessarily contribute to health. So it's all things along those same lines. And also, I think one of the biggest things as well was that I didn't ever learn to question experts. I thought, well, they're just the expert. I should just listen to what they say, even though it was my body. And I don't think that maybe it's changed now, but at least when I was going through school, it was more or less, this is the fact, don't question the facts. And I've learned the exact opposite now. You know, we must always ask, you know, to gain our own knowledge, so that way when we are making decisions, it's not just based on what somebody told us, but on something that we resonate with and that we can actually get behind and believe, more so than just taking instructions.
So you mentioned about some micronutrients. So are you talking about protein, fat, or no?
So the macronutrients are the protein, fat, carbohydrates. Micronutrients are your vitamins and minerals. That are, you know, that are the smaller nutrients, the more all-encompassing of like what is nourishment, that support, you know, how those fats, carbohydrates, and proteins actually get moved around the body.
Okay. So, you know, Wendy, fitness is something we all strive for. And, you know, I have seen many people going for gyms and, you know, just to get a perfect body. And that's what fitness means to most of us or to them. But as you focus on holistic well-being, being an expert, what is your definition of fitness and how can one achieve that?
Oh, I love this question. And it would come from somebody who knows about holistic wellness. Yes, so that's fitness to me is about really, I think it starts with joy, because I don't think that even any goal in the gym can be achieved if you don't have joy. And because a lot of the times when we're seeking an aesthetic appearance, that doesn't necessarily like line up with health necessarily. So I really feel like fitness is more whole, becoming whole, being a whole person, feeling fulfilled in everything from your purpose to your significance. It matters that you are here. Why are you here? What is the special gifts and talents that you have to offer the world? Those things matter. And then creating a healthy body, a fit body, to be able to move those gifts and talents around, to apply the knowledge and the intellect and what you've learned and what your passions are. How do you express that and communicate to others? Those things comes from having a healthy body, because if your mind isn't healthy, if your emotions aren't healthy, if you're physically not healthy or fit, then you can't be a full expression of who you were created to be. And so to me, fitness is all encompassing. And when you're able to go to the gym, it's about like making sure that the body is able to support the purpose. You know, what you need to fulfill. How are you as a mother? How are you as a wife? How are you as a husband or a father or an employee or a friend? And I really feel like going to the gym, if that's the only option one has, then that makes sense to me. But I do feel like we've lost the ability to play as we grow. We don't play as much as we did when we were children. And I love to look at children and nature as my like essential kind of markers of how nature intended. So people look at, you know, what did we do when we were children? We would go play. We didn't exercise. We didn't go to the gym and walk on a treadmill for, you know, an allotted amount of time. We just played. And I feel like if we get back to that, and you find another level of fitness for the body that then supports the person becoming a whole version of themselves.
Beautiful. So, Wendy, a lot of people, they are struggling with weight loss issues. And if you notice their food habits, they are addicted to compulsive food eating. So how do you help such clients?
So I start with, I do have like an intake form that I've developed over the last 15 years. And really it revolves around the relationship with food. So what is, in fact, in the book that I've just released recently, I go into it in one full section where I talk about identifying, and a question that I pose is if food were a person, how would you describe your relationship with them? Is it, your best friend? Is it your counselor? Is it, somebody that you hang out with on the side, but you don't tell any of your friends about it? What does the relationship with your food look like? And I think getting to the bottom of that and teaching people, one, bringing up the awareness of here's how food is utilized in your life, empowering them to go, wait a minute, I'm the boss of my food. My food is not the boss of me. I get to choose. I'm actually empowered in this moment. And then take that information, what we gather in that discovery period, to readjust some things with the food to where they feel empowered by food, where they see food as a tool to help their body, help them become the full expression of who they are. That it's just another tool. It's not necessarily to create comfort, although it is a very social and a wonderful thing to be able to sit around a table with family and friends and enjoy a meal. I think that's very important to be able to do that, but to be able to identify when it's time to be social and when it is time to have it as a tool, and to feel a sense of accomplishment and being able to exert that authority over the food and go, look, no, like I have gratitude for the food, but the food is not going to tell me what to do or how to feel. And that's something that, because of marketing, because of our society, because of the way that food has become such a so easy, instant gratification, and there's chemicals in the food that actually create craving and addictions to some extent. It's difficult to be able to see how food is really running the show, so to speak. So I think it's about like re-identifying what food is, what role does it play in our lives, and then adjusting how food fits into the lifestyle, removing the stuff that may be addictive, removing some of the sugars, and removing the emotional connection to the food in which it's winning. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, Wendy, in your bio, I read that you have your own cannabis brand. So, for what purpose we can use cannabis?
So there's a lot of different health benefits. There's an entire system in the body. It's the endocannabinoid system that's actually designed to work alongside cannabis. The endocannabinoid system actually regulates a lot of our body system. It's relatively newly discovered. So I don't necessarily think that it's something that needs to be done recreationally. I do think that there's a host of benefits. I think anything that nature makes, we must look at with a lot more reverence than we do. And so when it came to this particular project, I'm still in the process of that development. But my father was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years ago. And he did not want to do the medicine, the chemo, the radiation. He wanted to deal with it, the pain of it, and the outcome of it naturally. And so what I experienced was going to the dispensaries where we get, cannabis products in the United States. They had a lot of sugars and a lot of things in them, and the edibles, or what, that he could eat because of the stage he was at in his cancer. And I looked at these packages and I thought, well, he's trying to beat cancer, but everything in this edible this
Mhm.
food product
Mhm.
has things that would potentiate and aggravate the cancer.
Mhm.
So I started this project because I really feel like when people choose to utilize cannabis as a medicinal purpose, it shouldn't come alongside with junk food. We
Mhm.
should not marry junk
Yeah.
food with nature. We should keep them separate. And there wasn't anybody doing it yet.
Mhm.
So that's why I started, developing a product that would be safe for people who have diabetes and, cancers and things that are very sensitive to the
Sugar.
sugar.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good cause, and I hope your father is doing well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And uh, um, like right now, the whole world is struggling with this virus issue, and one way to deal with this ongoing issue is by boosting your immune system. So, being a holistic nutritionist, what advice would you like to share to our listeners so that which can help them improve their immunity?
I love this question too. Well, I think it's been stated and also studied at length, and there's a lot of supporting data on vitamin D. People just do not have high enough levels of vitamin D, and it's something that is not really readily available in our food. There are some foods that have higher vitamin D than others, but it's really about getting out in the sun and exposing your body to the sun for a certain amount of time during the day, depending on your sensitivity to the sun. But also in supplementing, it's okay to supplement a vitamin D3 and supporting it with magnesium, because if vitamin D3 is not able to function at its full capacity without the support of magnesium. So making sure that those things are, and magnesium and zinc are very powerful as well for the immune system. So supporting it with vitamin D3, magnesium, and zinc. The other thing too that I've talked a lot about is the thymus gland. And our thymus gland is very important. And we know that as we age, the thymus gland actually shrinks a bit. And so supporting the thymus gland is very important for a boosted immune system. We actually see a correlation in the older population having a reduced immunity, and we can actually draw that correlation to reduced functionality of the thymus gland. So there are ways to support that with nutrients, but also with what is like a glandular, where you can actually utilize like the gland of animals. It's like a medicinal practice in order to like support the thymus gland. I actually have an entire, I wrote an entire article about it. It's a PDF that I have available for people. If they go onto my Instagram account, they can actually get a link, and it gets emailed them directly, and will help with a lot of these questions. I have like a list of, I think like 8 different ways to help with the immune system. And then there's a particular supplement that I love that has recently been discovered that is very healthy for the gut, and getting the gut health in place, because our gut is really our immune system. So if it's imbalanced, and we have leaky gut, which we get just by being exposed to genetically modified organisms, so GMOs in the food, in the water supply, and the different toxins in our environment can contribute to an unhealthy microbiota, the microbiome of our gut. And so that's going to suppress your immune system until you get the gut back in order. And so you can actually supplement that with this particular product, which helps with not only like being proactive and like helping to balance it, but also in reactive. So if there is some gut lining issues, it does help to restore the gut lining, and there's tons of data to support it as well.
So, Wendy, you said about this thymus gland. Thymus gland, you said there is a product, but it is animal product. You are saying it is coming from animals.
Yes.
Do you have any substitute for vegetarians? I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
I mean, if there is.
Yes, and I'm happy to send that to you separately, only because I don't have it on that PDF, but I'm happy to supply that for anybody who has a desire to support the thymus gland as well. And really because we're a whole person, you just support the glands and the areas of the body that support the thymus gland as well. Or you also just come up underneath it and kind of give it the support that it needs through micronutrients. And there's also some herbs that are helpful for the thymus gland as well. So I'll send you that information.
Oh, I want to have it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So Wendy, you have mentioned that you teach inner city communities on how to shop and eat on budget.
Yes.
Would you like to share some information with our audience so that they can take some benefit out of it?
Sure. So one thing that I start with is that and I'm not sure how this translates throughout the world, but I know in the United States and in some other countries, in the grocery stores, because in the food industry, the marketing for gluten-free and grain-free and all of these allergens and sensitivities have really created a lot of product that are made specially for these sensitivities, but they also come with a higher price tag. Well, a lot of these things are actually already in our grocery store that were there way before these products were created. For instance, if you go into one section in the store and you're looking for gluten-free pasta, you will pay a lot of money for gluten-free pasta. But if you go into the international section, a lot of countries have been making pasta out of rice for years, and they are non-GMO, which I think non-GMO is very, very important. And they are maybe 1/3 of the price of these brands that are, creating this specialty market. So it's kind of about looking through more of the international section, looking through the bottom, the rows in the bottom of the grocery store, where you can see some less purchased items. They're not as, the packaging isn't as cool, it's not as flashy. It's maybe not trending on the end of the aisles. It's in those spaces that you're going to actually find, less processed foods, more traditional foods. If you're going to have to buy something that's packaged, I would start there. A lot of times the stores will have, maybe they're less desirable foods like on the bottom row, but that doesn't mean that they're less healthy. I think it's really important to stay not as little processing as possible. So shopping the perimeter of the store, which isn't like new information. But I think people forget that we actually can get a lot of what we need just in the produce section and also in the frozen section. So in the frozen foods, people seem to think that there's not as healthy as fresh. There's not much different in the nutrient content of the frozen items, and you can usually get that stuff less expensive, and also you can keep it longer, so you don't have to worry about eating it as quickly as possible. I also teach people about going to farmers markets or supporting local farmers and making sure that while it might be more convenient to get something at a store, you can actually become friends and befriend the local farming. One, it's very good for your microbiome to eat locally, because it speaks the same language as your body. But also there's something lost in the connection that we have to our farming communities. A lot of those farmers are struggling in order to make ends meet. And so there's a lot of times that there's more of an opportunity for sliding scale. You know them, you can ask them, if we can get a different price, or if you buy, 7 apples instead of 2 apples, can I get it for a little bit less per pound? Some of the stuff that I think people have shied away from because it feels strange. I think that farmers who are supporting their families and have a real passion for food, I think we need to go back to that, and we need to start seeing what we can do, because otherwise food is getting thrown in the garbage. It's getting thrown away. Also, a lot of stores do have sections where food is close to the expiration date. Look in those areas. Ask your store managers or the people who run the stores, when food gets close to you throwing it in the garbage, what days are those, and can I come on those days to find those products? Because there's a lot of food waste. We have global food waste at an all-time high, and it really is just because people don't know. They don't know that it's about to expire out. And so it does take a little bit of like investigation and maybe a little bit more time. It's a little less inconvenient, but you can get a lot of food and you can get product for much less expensive if you just ask the questions and then put in the time to figure it out. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I also do all these things, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm enjoying it. And then one question I have, like, see, when I go, like, I'm mom of two kids, you know, two young daughters I have. And then whenever they go out with their father, they are bringing some chips and all of that. And I see, I get really pissed off when I see the content, you know. So
Uh-huh.
I want from your side, you know, what should we avoid in when we are buying such type of snacks? You know, what should we look for in on the label that if it is there, we shouldn't buy.
Yeah. So being in the food industry, I've learned a lot about this in the last couple of years. There's the longer the ingredient list is
Mm-hmm.
with words that don't, basically, if you couldn't go down the aisles of the store and buy all the individual ingredients and remake it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably a no.
Mm-hmm.
Only because you know at that point in time they're actually using ingredients that could be harmful to the body, very high in sodium. And I don't mean because we need sodium, we need the
Mm-hmm.
salt, we need the iodine, but that's not usually the type that's being used
Mm-hmm.
in snack products. I do think that when you lean more towards like an organic or a non-GMO product, you're going to start to get some of those things will kind of just fall off just because they're not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And you have, in order to be certified to be
And
Project
organic.
Non-GMO verified, you actually have to qualify all of your ingredients. So just naturally, a lot of the things that are concerning are not going to be in there because they wouldn't qualify. Also, same with organic, if those are an option. I'm a big component of making snacks with children.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the greatest things, and if there's time, or even if there's an opportunity to make time, to do simple things like getting an air dryer
Mm-hmm.
that will dry your fruits, that you can dry potatoes and turn them into potato chips, baking sweet potatoes once a week and having them in bags, and just because it's really the convenience. I mean, I know that children like the snacks, like it's fun, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also just, it's quick and they like how it tastes. And I've found that 9 out of 10 times when a child helps to make something, it becomes something that they're proud of, and they
Mm-hmm.
tend to like it more. And it's not necessarily tricky. I like tricking them into eating something. It's, I think, how nature designed it.
Mm-hmm.
They're becoming adults. They want to take responsibility for their choices. And so in a way, choosing a bag is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if they picked it, or they were part of choosing it and creating it, that will be their choice because they've taken part in it. I also think that it boils down to, and I'm sure you do this, it just teaching them the why behind what we eat, and I typically phrase it as, you're like a superhero. Every child is growing into an adult that we need. We all collectively need each other. And in order for them to become their best version of the super person that they are, they need to have support in that. And once they know that like a blueberry or turmeric is going to be help their superness, versus what maybe like some kind of like processed junk oils will like minimize their ability to perform whatever it is that they do, whether they play an instrument or they play sports or they're very smart and they want to be a doctor or something. Teaching them the why and then giving them the choice, little by little, they'll make different choices as well. But I would say most importantly, when you look at any packaged goods, you want to like be able to, if you could, replicate it. So if the ingredients start going way sideways, or you're like, I don't even know what that is, and I couldn't buy it, even if I tried, those would be a no.
Mm-hmm. So actually, I was looking for MSG, you know, because I think monosodium glutamate, it's a flavor enhancer they are using. And I just wonder, like, what are the harmful effects it can have on kids?
Yeah, well, a lot of it has to do with even just like the way that their neurons communicate with each other. It's an endocrine disruptor. It also is in there for the flavor, so it causes cravings and addictions. It's why people like they can't stop eating it, or they always gravitate towards something that's not good for them, because there is some neuro transmitters that are affected or impacted by the chemicals in the food. And so actually the food is choosing for them. They're not choosing the food because they have this wiring now that's associated with that food. And MSG is very powerful at that. And so that to me is probably the biggest problem. And there's like 50 different names.
Yeah. They come up with some other names every time.
Yeah, there's so many different, like you almost have to have like the, you know, like the list up on your phone if you're going to be looking at products. But I agree with you. That's one of the things that I always tell people to keep an eye out for and avoid if possible.
And what about cheese? You know, there are so many types of cheese, you know, and all these chips are coming in different cheese flavors. So you think we should go or we should make at home? I mean, buying cheese at home and then just make your own chips and sprinkle that. I mean, you think it's a good idea or just completely avoid cheese?
No, I do think that there are health benefits of natural cheese. And I mean, and I speak from, like I said, from the United States, like we have all of our dairy, a good portion, if it's not organic and grass fed, these dairy has antibiotics and hormones in it, which is extremely disruptive to our children. But then you have like the other side of the coin, which is like the flavoring. So it's not even real cheese necessarily. It's like really like a little bit of cheese, a cheese flavor, which is usually has some MSG in it. So what I like to use for that, like for popcorn or chips, like if you're going to make your own potato chips at home, I like nutritional yeast. Has a very cheesy flavor, and it's natural, and it actually has a lot of amino acids, and it's actually nutrient dense. And it's not super expensive. You get the non-GMO version of it, and you sprinkle that on popcorn or on any, like, let's say you do like a light, like coconut oil with some potatoes to make some potato chips, or with sweet potatoes, and you sprinkle a little of that nutritional yeast and some sea salt on there. And you'll get that cheesy flavor without having to create any artificial flavoring or use any dairy that has been, put through the industry, which is usually full of antibiotics and hormones.
So nutritional yeast, huh? It's not cheese, but it's some type of yeast, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, I will look for that. I mean, I think it's a good information.
Yeah, and it's really great. I use it as flavoring in some of my food brands. When I'm looking to get a cheese flavor, because all the food brands that I develop are actually 100% plant-based. I don't use any meat or dairy in my food products. And so that has been a challenge to figure out how to do that. But at scale, I'm able to, really utilize that nutritional yeast to get a nice cheesy flavor.
I remember that we eat marmite or marmite something, no? Is this the same type of yeast or different?
A little bit different. Little
something different. Okay. I think so. Thank you, Wendy, for coming over to the show and sharing your valuable insights on various aspects of fitness and our whole being. I have thoroughly enjoyed time with you, and I'm sure whoever is watching us has learned something from this conversation. Thank you, people, for watching this video. I hope that by means of this series, I have contributed to your lives. Do let us know what you think of this interview by commenting on my Facebook community, Body, Mind, and Soul Healing. And if you haven't joined it yet, then join it. Keep watching the Transformation Immersion. Take care and bye for now.